Hey everybody, welcome back to another edition of Batter Heads. I am here with Mel Funk from Jackknife Stiletto. They are
Hi.
an amazing band out of New York. So this is a 3-hour time difference between the two of us right now. I did, a, so small, like quick backstory. So your band, Jackknife Stiletto, has its own podcast where you guys have been doing these Music Monday talks on Instagram throughout all of the whole quarantine situation and stuff like that. And you guys had me on in was it early July or late June that we did it?
I think it was early July.
Okay. Um, Early July. You guys asked me to be on your show, which you did like on Facebook Live and stuff like that, which was really cool. And so I was like, and now it's payback. And and now I'm gonna have you on my show, and we can talk about all the nerdy stuff we wanted to talk about, but couldn't because yours was with your whole band. And I really sincerely doubt your guitar player cares about the tension rods you use on the bottom of your snare. But I care about that junk. So so I was like, all right, I'm gonna have you on my show now.
Awesome.
Yes. First of all, how you been?
Good. I've been good. How about you?
Awesome. I've been doing good. I'm a little tired, but that's because I've been like locked in this room all day, every day, 7 days a week for months now.
Yep.
Um,
I actually did the opposite today, which is why I'm so exhausted. I spent, the day in the sun, which we're not used to, us being vampires staying in our studios.
what's
So
that?
that just tired me out.
Oh. No, that's
Hence the
actually
coffee.
I went out. Yeah, no, to be honest, I went out this morning and I went for a walk. I've been trying to do like a lot of exercise the last bunch of months, where, I mean, it kind of started because at the beginning of this situation, like when they first locked everything down in March, like 2 or 3 weeks in, my car died and it needed a major repair. So, my studio where I'm at here, it's walking distance to my house. Like it's like a mile away. So on nice days when the weather's nice, I used to walk here anyway. So I was just like, well, this is the only place I have to go. I'll just walk back and forth while the car's in the shop getting fixed. And that started with like getting out and walking every day. So I did 5 miles this morning just to
Nice.
get some exercise kind of thing too. So I hear you. Um,
Yeah, I've definitely gained like the quarantine 15 is what I'm calling it.
oh, really?
Like instead of the freshman, yeah, now it's the quarantine. So I'm like, I need to get back in shape here.
Oh, okay. I know some people that were kind of bouncing around. There's some people that like have taken this opportunity to finally like get really fit and work out and diet and exercise and stuff like that. And then there's other people that are just like, no. I think when it first started, I got like the first week or two, I got super lazy about everything and stopped eating as healthy as I normally do and stopped exercising as much. And then when it looked like this was going to go on longer, I was like, okay, I got to get myself
You got to do something.
I
Yep.
have to get back in, and not let myself slack and go because who knows how long this is going to last. And if I keep doing this, I'm going to, have a heart attack by the time we come out of it. So,
Yeah, definitely. Week one was like, oh, cool, a nice little vacation. All right, we'll just, stay in for a week. And then it was,
yeah,
oh, wait,
exactly.
it's going
That's
to be
what it felt
months.
like. Vacation.
Yep.
Exactly. Um,
Yeah, doing all the, I had so many tours that I did last summer. I was home for maybe a day or two between tours and then I was gone again. And we were playing 4 or 5 shows a day out in the heat, jumping around. So it was like between exercise and having a tan, like it was the best summer of my life. And then comes this summer and I'm like, all right, we're
well,
sitting
it's
on a
about
couch.
balance, right? You had the super active summer. Now you get the super lazy summer. It's all
Yep.
about balance.
Yep.
What what tours were you on last year? Which one?
So last year between Jackknife Stiletto and Street Drum Corps, um, we did a lot of the street fairs, a lot of, state fairs, county fairs, all that. And then in between each Street Drum Corps tour. I had a Jackknife tour. And then after that, we had Blood Drums. I performed at Six Flags in New Jersey. So that was a 2-month run. And again, 4 or 5 shows a day. And that's not behind the kit. You're jumping around, jumping off of garbage pails and running around everywhere, getting your exercise. So
Oh, absolutely. I have a Blood Drums poster. You can't see it right now. It's on the opposite wall here. And one of our older posters. And I think there's like a stack of them in my garage.
yeah, you were actually telling me that you're on that shirt that I have from Las Vegas.
Yes.
I didn't even realize you were in that. I've actually never seen. I actually tried looking up videos of it, and all I can find was backstage stuff.
Yeah, there's
nothing.
whatever reason there's been nothing released that so far anyway of that.
And there's nothing that says what cast members are in it either, so I had no idea who was even in it.
All right, so get this. I'm on. All right, this is going to be exclusive breaking news. I did the photo shoot. I'm on that T-shirt. That same image was used for promotion, so it was on the cabs. It was on blackjack tables. It was on elevators. Like, I have photos of the Hard Rock Casino and the elevators closing, and there's my photo on it. Or, someone with a glass over my face at
Nice.
a blackjack table. I never actually went. Because
you didn't play it?
So I never played the Las Vegas shows, because at the same time, I was running our LA crew at the Six Flags here. And we had a residency every summer at Six Flags Magic Mountain for like 4 years. And I was in charge of it. So I was stuck here because the Las Vegas shows were only, I think it was only once a month for 6 months or something like that. It was once a month for 6 months. And I was here in LA doing the Six Flags run, sweating it out in the heat for 4 hours a day, instead of doing the fun one in Vegas. So the cast that actually did Vegas was Bobby, Frank, and Adam, the original 3 guys. That was them. And then they would have guests come out. So a couple of the other LA guys went out a couple of times, like just decided like, I'm going to drive out this weekend and, hang and do the show kind of thing. And I mean, I could have done that, but that would have been me just like deciding I'm going to go to Vegas for the show this weekend, when I could have stayed here and made more money sticking with the Six Flags residency. And then what they would do for each show is they would have special guests be featured also. So I think, I could get this all wrong, but I think Stephen Perkins went out for one. I know Roy Mayorga went out for one. Shannon Larkin went out for one. And I was hanging out with him like a couple of weeks before. And he was like, dude, I'm doing the Vegas show, the next.
You're like, great, I'm not.
Yeah. He's like, I'm doing the next Vegas show coming up. And I was like, that's awesome. He's like, yeah, we'll have so much fun. I was like, well, I haven't really been doing those. And he's like, well, come out to that one. I was like, all right, maybe I'll come out to that one. I ended up not going.
But your face made it on an elevator. That's all that counts.
It was on an elevator, and you have a T-shirt with my face on it now. So I got a couple of those T-shirts too, which is kind of cool. When did you? All right, so when and how did you get involved with Street Drum Corps? Because so here's the thing for the audience that doesn't know this. Street Drum Corps started with 3 original people: Bobby and Adam Alt, Frank Zumo. They started it. I think we're at we're getting close to year 15 or something like that they started it.
Yeah, I believe they started in 2004.
Yeah, because I don't know. I don't remember.
According to Wikipedia.
That's not always right. And I know I have a 10th anniversary T-shirt, but I don't remember when we made those shirts. So I don't know. Anyway, so they started it, and then they were performing at Six Flags, the same one where I was. That's like where Street Drum Corps started, was there. A lot of the equipment that they had, they just garbage picked out of the boneyard. And so they started getting some traction, and then they ended up doing like Warped Tour, and then moving on to like, I think they did a Taste of Chaos tour, and they started getting bigger and started actually being less of like a street percussion band and more of like a real band. And they got a record deal with Interscope and everything. And so then what they did was like, well, they still want us at the theme park, but we're out doing Project Revolution tour with 30 Seconds to Mars or whatever. So they hired a couple more people. And then as that started to get busy, and all of a sudden those people were like, okay, you're going to do Warped Tour this summer, and we're going to do, you know, this other tour. Then it was like, but we still need people at the theme park. That's where I came in. So I guess I would technically be third generation Street Drum Corps. I joined in 2011. No, that's not right. Maybe it is right. Yeah, because I'm coming up on 10 years with them. It's the longest band I've ever been in. 10 years.
Congratulations.
And
Happy almost anniversary.
Yeah. So I think I joined in early 2011. And so they hired a couple more guys. And then we started doing the one-offs in the theme parks that year, and blood drums and stuff. And then it was like, okay, now there's 3 crews. There was one in Northern California, one in Southern California, and then Bobby, Frank, and Adam. So then it was all of a sudden, well, let's just start shopping it to theme parks. And the following year, I think we had 4 blood drum shows running nationally, one up north, one down in SoCal, and I actually did the one up north. I didn't even do the one in Southern California. And then 2 in other places. I forget where they were. So the one year we got up to 4. And what they would do is like Frank and Bobby and Adam would fly out to the other states to hire people out there and then train them how to do the show. So it started doing that, and it just kept spiraling and getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And there's one year at first it was just for the blood drum season in October too. The rest of the year, the only people that were working were like me and a couple other guys during like the summers and the falls and the winters and springs. And then there was one year we had 10 blood drum shows running simultaneously nationwide. And so since then, that's been the norm of like, let's put pockets of crews together and sell it to theme parks and state fairs and stuff like that. And we can run it all year round if we do that. There's always a state fair going on somewhere. There's, the haunt season is still the biggest season. But
I think last year the last 2 years, I think we had 7 or 8 theme parks. It was going on.
Yeah, exactly. So that's just been the way it's been running now. And I slowly over the years backed off of the fairs and stuff like that. And the last this year, outside of the quarantine video we did, I haven't done any work with them. But last year and the year before, I was only doing like the private party stuff. And a lot of the time it was like, it'd be me and Bobby and Adam, and because Frank was on tour with Sum 41 most of the time. So it'd be me, Bobby, and Adam going out and doing like private parties and corporate gigs and private stuff for like vans and stuff like that. And so like the last couple of years, all I've done is like I haven't done any theme parks or any of the big shows. It's all been just private stuff. So
now, how did you meet them? How did you get into the whole thing?
I auditioned, and I don't remember, because you got to remember now, it's been 10 years. I don't remember exactly how I got in touch with them or how I honestly don't remember how I even got in to do an audition. I don't remember how that happened. But I know the discussions were all through their manager at the time. And then I went and I did an in-person audition. They sent me one of the songs, and I went and did an in-person audition. And my audition um, was just me and Frank playing the song together, sitting next to each other. And Bobby, Adam, and our manager sat on the couch and videotaped it. And thank God, I know the video exists, but it's never been publicly released. And thank God for that, because it's probably terrible. It's probably really bad. But I got a call like a week later from the manager saying that I got the gig, kind of thing. And then we worked out details for, we had to go and audition to get our residency at Six Flags. So then we went and worked out details to go do the audition. We did rehearsals, and it was me and two other guys, Justin Barnes and Jerry Doot. And we were the new batch, the new recruits, like I said, third generation. And at the same time, they were going to be on the cover of Drum Magazine. So we had a private magazine release party at the Roxy on Sunset. And I had just gotten the gig like a week before or something like that. So I got invited to that, and we all got to hang out. And that was like the news came out, because then Drum Magazine ran a feature on the fact that we had a party for being in the magazine. So there's like a picture of me and Kenny Arnoff hanging out at the bar and stuff like that. And it said that it didn't say I was in the band. It just said I was there. But yeah, the rest is history. Like that, at that time, the band was still on Interscope Records and stuff like that. And I remember it was like a year later, Bobby told me, he's like, "Oh yeah, by the way, we split with Interscope. We're going independent from now on." And I was like, it didn't make a difference to me anyway, but okay. So,
Gotcha.
yeah, what about you? How did you get involved with them?
So I started in 2017, and so I'm still pretty new with them. They needed an extra person for a Jameson gig in Manhattan.
Those. I have an entire Jameson wardrobe at home from all the T-shirts from that were rough gigs.
Between Jameson and Absolute Vodka, there's just wardrobes and like so much stuff, so many handouts and everything, like pop sockets for your phones and bottle openers and like whatever they could give you, they were throwing at us.
Did you play the drums that were dropped into the barrels?
And
Wait,
funny story about that.
You might cut out. Say that again.
Yeah.
You did play the drums in the barrels?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
They made those I did the first Jameson gig, and they made those for us on site, and then just started shipping them around the country.
So funny story about that.
Okay.
So that was the first gig I ever played. And I actually got into that because someone who Frank was friends with from way back when he used to live on Long Island was actually a drum teacher of mine, professor at the college I went to. So Frank called him and said, we need someone for this gig. Do you know anyone who wants to audition? And he referred me, and, like you said before, the rest is history. So
that's awesome.
We did that Jameson gig. We didn't have any rehearsals. We showed up. Rob was there. It was Rob, Jimmy, and another guy named John. Mm-hmm. And Rob taught me all the stuff when we got there. We got there just hours early and just ran it over and over and over again. We were only playing a few songs. We get on stage, and Rob's drum fell right into the barrel, like on the first hit.
The bottom came out?
The whole drum just went down to the floor.
Oh my God.
On like his first hit of the song. So he had no drum the entire time. And so like he's my cue. He's playing all these things that he just taught me.
Oh my God.
And he's out. But it went great. Like it was an awesome show. Went absolutely amazing. And then after that they asked me to do blood drums at Dorney Park in Pennsylvania for the 2017 season, but I was on tour with Jackknife, Stiletto.
Oh.
So I wasn't able to do it. So they got someone else to do it. And then when they started doing Six Flags in Jersey, they asked me again if I could do that. And so I did that the last 2 years.
That's awesome. Those Jameson barrels. So how that whole thing started was the very first Jameson gig was in Chicago. And they flew 6 of us out. And they put us up for 4 days. We playing one night, but they put us up for 4 days. After that, they stopped doing that. And it was only like you fly in the day of the show and then fly out the next morning. And it was like a 24-hour thing. But the first one, they flew us in for 4 days. We didn't even know what to do. So we walked around Chicago and it was snowing. So we get to the venue and they bought us a bunch of like bags of drumsticks and mallets and stuff like that too, which we didn't really need, but we're like, okay. And they had these barrels and they're like, yeah, we're going to go buy drums and we're going to measure the drums and build these things. Like this was like the day before the show. And so we show up early for sound check kind of thing, and they had all the drums laid out. And those were those little, those Gretsch Catalina kits. They bought like 2 of them with the little, 20-inch bass drum kind of thing and everything. So they had us tune everything up, and then they had these it's like shelving underneath it that the drum basically just sits on, and it just plants right inside the top of that barrel. And then they had mics underneath it, like wireless mic packs underneath to mic everything. And we got the drums all tuned up, like beautiful sounding. And then the minute we put them in, it was just like flat and gross, and it sounded awful. We're like, oh no. So we get the gaff tape and start ripping heads apart and everything else. And oh my God, it was hysterical. It was complete and utter chaos. But then they kept those barrels and just started shipping them out. Like we would, for a while there, we were doing Jameson gigs like every 10 days, and we were on a plane somewhere else. And I didn't realize there was still any of them going on because I hadn't done any in a couple of years. So that's funny that they're still circulating. Those barrels are.
Yep.
I'm surprised those barrels haven't fallen apart yet from slamming so hard. Well, you said
they kind of.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so we've done that the past 2 years. We did the Jameson gigs, and then we had Absolute Vodka. We did the Pride Parade also in Manhattan, and they had a whole float going. And then the next day after that, Jimmy and Rob and I were flying out to Missouri to do a county fair over there, but the parade was delayed 4 hours. So
wonderful.
Yeah, so we just made it to our flight in the nick of time. Had no time to go home. All our bags were at home, all our luggage and everything. We didn't have anything with us. We had just enough time to run home, grab our suitcases, get to Jersey, and fly out to Missouri, and just made it.
Wow. I think you got a loose cable on your mic there. It was buzzing. I mean, I could still hear you, but it was just buzzing a little. That's all.
Do you want me to swap it out with another one?
No, I think it's fine. I think it was just
okay.
It was something. It's fine. Okay. That's wild. That's pretty cool, man. That's.
I just remember getting to the hotel room. Once we got to Missouri, we checked into the fairgrounds, dropped off all the gear in the storage unit, and checked everything out, said our hellos. Then we go back to the hotel room, and just kind of as a joke, I just collapsed on the bed, face first, with my feet hanging off. And within seconds, I guess I actually passed out, because hours later, I woke up with my feet still hanging off the bed, and I'm just face planted onto the bed.
Those are rough. Those are rough. Yeah, I think they got a photo of me sleeping in the Denver airport, and they some of those gigs were pretty rough, pretty intense. Chewing a lot of Advil from all the headbanging and stuff. So, but that's pretty cool. That's awesome. So
I've learned a little trick with the headbanging.
Mm-hmm.
So I headbang from the waist up instead of my neck. So I put my whole body into it, and then your neck doesn't hurt.
All right. Maybe I'll try that.
It works when you're standing up, playing the drums. I don't know about behind the drum kit.
Yeah, maybe not the kit. All right, so for blood drums and stuff, because we're using backing tracks and everything, are you using in-ears?
Yes.
Did you ever have them go out mid-show?
No, but I did face plant on cement mid-show.
Oh!
That happened.
There's been plenty of injuries and mishaps there, but I had my ears cut out, and that's the thing is, everything's mic'd, backing tracks are being played, and if your ears cut out, you're done. It's complete silence on stage, and you hear nothing.
We had side fills. We had wedges up there just in case.
No, we did a blood drum show one year that there was nothing but the mains and our ears, and that was it.
So you didn't have fire performers out there? Because we had ours on stage that needed to listen to the music, so we had stills.
So we couldn't do fire that year because it was at the LA Haunted Hayride, and hay and fire don't.
Yeah, you know, doesn't really
So
mix.
instead of like using the angle grinders and having a fire performance stuff, what we did instead is we got a CO2 cannon that was just like insane. Like it had these giant tanks that were probably about 5 feet high. And
We
they
had those last year.
yeah. All right. Did you use the gun at all?
So much fun. Yeah. We really only use it at the very end, but yeah, it has such a kickback like you're firing a regular gun.
It's insane. So there was I think whenever the tank was getting empty, Jared was the one using the gun. I don't know if you know Jared or not, but whenever the tank was getting low and we knew like, all right, we're probably going to have to, if we want to get through the next set or tomorrow, we're going to have to switch up tanks. So whenever it was getting low, he would just empty the tank as much as he could at the end of the show. And there was one time he basically covered the entire stage in this white fog, and I couldn't see, and I was trying to make my way up. I was in the back of the stage. I'm trying to make my way up front to for us to take a bow at the end of the show. And I tripped over something and like a washing machine or something, and I fell and couldn't see anything. And the smoke cleared. They're all doing a bow without me because they can't see me. And as the smoke cleared, I'm laying like this, like tangled in all kinds of cables and stuff. And man, if he had that thing too close to you, he liked to hit people in the face with it. And it has such force that one time, if he gets up real close and you're wearing a gas mask, he would actually blow it sideways. And yeah, that particular year, we had a lot of ridiculous mishaps. My ears went out one time where my body pack, I was using a baseball bat on a keg. My body pack just came unclipped, went tumbling, and I watched it like it was slow motion go like this, come unplugged from my ears, hit the ground, break open, batteries everywhere, and your ears just go out. And you're like, I can't hear anything.
Yep, that exact same thing happened to Jimmy last year.
Oh, yeah. It's a nightmare. You go into this panic mode. I'm on my hands and knees hiding behind a barrel trying to shove batteries back in the pack and everything. There's one time I
remember turning around and just seeing his batteries roll across the stage.
Oh, no. We had those big giant CO2 tanks strapped to the back of our stage, and I whacked the gong that we had just a little too hard and knocked it clear off the stage into the tanks. And I was prepared to duck and cover like they were going to explode. Oh my God. I've my heart skipped a beat the minute I hit it, and I could kind of feel how much force I hit the gong with without looking. And I turn and I just see it flying off the back of the stage into the tanks. And I was like, oh no. Oh, there's been a lot of.
We also had another fun thing. So I don't know what you call it. It's not a monorail. It's like the little sky ride thing, the little buckets that people sit in. You go from one side of the park to the other.
Oh, yeah. I don't know.
So that goes conveniently right over our stage at Six Flags.
Oh, fun.
So every once in a while, we would get a packet of ketchup or, barbecue sauce or something just thrown on because, kids just go up there and they're eating their fries and throw it down, lands on the stage.
Oh, man.
Gets quite slippery when that happens.
I
think we all, during the season, at least once, everyone slipped on a packet of ketchup or something.
God. Yeah, we've had some fun ones. It poured one time and we had to just still play in the rain. I mean, we didn't have to, we decided to.
Right.
There we did so the last Blood Drums show that we did in Southern California, because we actually haven't had a Blood Drums in Southern California in a couple of years. the last one we did was actually part of Knotfest with Slipknot, and I think Judas Priest and Korn were headlining that year, and it was a couple of days long kind of thing. And we had our own stage across from the main stage, which was kind of awesome. Again, it's always with the baseball bat for some reason, but I broke the bat.
Favorite part of the show.
Right? I broke the bat over the keg. Like the aluminum snapped, and I watched it break off like a chunk about that long, and it went flying right over the guardrail into the crowd. And I was just so paranoid that I hurt somebody. I was like, oh no, like I just impaled somebody's kid. And thankfully nobody was hurt. And after the show, someone picked it up and had us autograph it afterwards. I was like, I don't know if you're allowed to have this. This is like, it looked like a broken bottle, you know, it was all serrated and everything like that, made of metal. I was like, we might have to, why don't we give you a pair of drumsticks instead? And why don't we take this sharp thing? Security might question you when you're leaving with it.
Yep. So I had, a few years ago, I had like a drum battle, I guess you could call it, with Chad Smith of the Red Hot Chili Peppers. He has a side project called Chad Smith's Bombastic Meat Bats.
Yeah, I've heard him.
And they are a ridiculous funk band. So they had me up on stage. Chad was obviously playing drum kit. I was doing all kind of percussion, congas, bongos, timbales, stuff like that. And, you know, we were just trading fours. As I'm hitting the timbales, I was using those really skinny sticks.
Mm-hmm.
It just whacked, like, snapped right in half. Really, really sharp. And there's a video of it just flying right at some guy's face, and you just see him duck.
Oh, my God.
Like, this close to his eyeball.
Oh, jeez.
And he hands it to me after the show, and I mean, it was like a dagger. It was so sharp. I was like, I'm so sorry.
Oh, yeah, it was a timbale stick? Yeah.
Yeah, I went out, you know, the next day and bought the thick timbale sticks. I was like, not using those little ones ever again.
Yeah, wow. That's insane. Well, I'm glad nobody got impaled at the shows. So I know we talked about this on like your show quite a bit with what Jackknife has been doing and stuff like that, but the one thing we didn't really get super into is you have this custom drum kit sitting behind you.
Yes, I do. My new baby.
It has like a fishnet finish over the red, which you can't really see on camera kind of thing right now. But I want to know like the history, the story, like when did you get that? Where did the idea come from for that finish? Tell me the history of that kit, because like I said, when I was on your show, we talked about it a little bit and then quickly moved on because not everybody in the show is a drummer. And I was just like, I want to talk about drums.
So, this kit, well, actually, I'll go back a little bit. So for the entire history of our band, Jackknife Stiletto's thing has always been fishnets.
Okay.
So Annie and I started the band together years ago with some other members. Roxy is, she's been with us about 3.5 years, somewhere around there. And so Annie and I just kind of decided we wanted to coordinate, but we didn't want to be like matching, like super matching and dorky, but we wanted to coordinate somehow. So we decided on a color scheme of like black and red, and then fishnets.
Cool.
And boots. So that was always our thing. So I got endorsed by SJC last year, I guess it was. And so originally what I was going to do is take all the artwork from our album. Because we have we have a new album coming out soon, and we have 2 EPs that are already out, and all 3 of them have a whole comic story that goes along with it.
Oh,
so, yeah. So we're going to be putting out a comic book as well at some point. And so we teamed up with a local artist from Toronto, and she did all the comic art, and I was going to wrap everything in all the artwork. And then I decided, well, you know what? That's really only for this album. So I'm going to do that on a snare drum. But I figured for the drum kit as a whole, it should just fit our band no matter what album we have coming out, so that I could use this for years. So we decided to go with our black and red theme. So it's all red finish and then black fishnet, and it actually is. They legit glued fishnet to it, so it's got the texture of it and everything.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. So, how did
And
they?
they were toying around with like, well, how do we put it on here without it falling off? And they went through a whole bunch of different like trial and error types of things to get it to look good because you can't shellac over it. And they figured it out. They worked their magic, and here it
They
is.
glued fishnet to the shells.
Yep.
And I mean, fishnet, it's so thin though. Like, if you were to like rub it real hard with your hand or bump it with something, would it unglue it from the shell because it's so small of a surface contact?
We'll find out.
Okay. All right. All right. I'm not trying to jinx it on you or nothing like that.
I'll let you know after our first tour whenever we get back out.
Yeah, I'm just super curious. Like, how do you glue fishnet to a drum and make it stay?
The good
without
thing is, if
lacquer.
it does come off, we could always put more on.
That's true. That's true. I'm just wondering, like, because you said they didn't lacquer over the top of it. I figured
No.
they'd put it down and then lacquer over the top of it to seal it or something. But like,
Yeah. So originally my idea was like, okay, can you put this and then some kind of clear coat over it, whether it just be like a shellac or whether it's an actual, like acrylic clear drums.
yeah,
Could they do something like that? And they were, it would affect the sound of it and the tone and everything. So they tried out a whole bunch of options and figured out a way to somehow just put it right on there.
that's very cool.
Yeah.
That definitely works some magic. Those guys. What about the sizes that like? Those are sizes you picked, obviously.
Yes.
Was that the same sizes that you were using before from whatever drum kit you had before that, or was this like I'm going to change it up and I want to try different things?
It was mostly the same. The only thing I changed slightly was the floor tom. It's like 1 inch or 2 inches smaller. The head is the same size,
Okay.
but then the height is a little tiny bit smaller. Everything else I believe is the same.
12, 16, 22? I'm guessing from.
Yes, good guess. And I mean, I'll be honest, I'm not the best like of a gearhead, so I kind of went in there. I was like, okay, this is I went and talked to Mike, who's the head of the company. He gave us a tour of the factory, which was really exciting and awesome.
So you were actually there in San Jose, obviously.
Massachusetts. We went to the Massachusetts factory.
Oh, I didn't know they had an East Coast one.
Yeah.
I had no idea. Okay.
Yep. So they gave us a whole tour. We saw the guys making some other drum sets, and it was really cool. They pulled out all these sheets of like color swatches, and we're looking through as if you're at a paint store. I mean, it was fun.
That's rad.
Yeah. So yeah, I was talking to him, and I said, listen, we're playing punk rock and roll. What would you suggest for sizes for that? I said, here's what I'm using on my other kits. I have one Yamaha kit that I was using to record. I have a D-drum kit that I was using as my beater kit to take on the road.
Mm-hmm.
And it was actually a double kit that was given to me. It was 2 bass drums, 2 floor toms, 2 racks. So I would split it up. And if I was doing, let's say, a pit gig, I would leave half that kit in the pit orchestra locked up and then take my other half on the road and use it as 2 kits.
I used to do that too. I had a kit like that too. That was 2 racks, 2 floors, 2 kicks, and eventually I did the same thing. I had half of it at a rehearsal studio with a band that I was working with, and the other half of it I had at home just for me to do gigs with and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And yeah, like, because who wants to carry all that around?
Right. It's funny you mentioned that because our first gigs that we played, I used so much stuff, like all types of auxiliary percussion. I mean, we had wind chimes and cowbells and tambourines and like a million different types of cymbals and splash cymbals and chinas and this and that. Then you start touring and you're like, all right, I don't have a drum tech. Mm-hmm. And we're all squeezing into a little minivan. So all that's going out.
Smaller and smaller and smaller.
Yep. First the cymbal started going, then the auxiliary percussion. Then I nixed the extra rack tom I used to play with too. I was like, that's gone.
It's, that's exactly it. You can always tell like who's a working musician from someone who never leaves their basement. Like, I don't know if you're on any like message boards or like Facebook groups or anything like that.
Mhm.
I'm on a bunch of them for drums, like independent message boards and then Facebook groups and all this stuff. And like everyone's always like, oh, post pictures of your kit kind of thing, blah blah blah. And you'll see like a bunch of people that have these massive, ridiculous kits with a million toms and cymbals and stuff like that. And you can just tell by the photo, you're like, you've never played a gig before, ever, have
Right.
you? That kit does not move from that spot. Because you would,
Yeah.
if you were in a band that was regularly working, even just playing bars on weekends, you wouldn't take any of that stuff with you at all. You'd be like just Ringo kitting it every single night.
Yep. A
So,
friend of mine actually has one of those ridiculous kits, but like it stays in his basement, and when he does gig, he only takes a few pieces of it, and the rest stays. So like all the extra toms, the extra cymbals, extra everything, it all just stays in the basement, and like a whole rack. But
yeah,
when he tours, he just takes what he needs and goes. It's like, all right.
my main kit that I use live it's never set up. It's in road cases at all times, and it's on a shelf behind the camera here. It is huge. It's got 5 toms and the kick to it, right? I've never once set the whole thing up, ever. Never once has the entire kit been set up. Not even in this room for fun, like, because it's the road kit, and it just stays and lives in those cases. And the only time I ever take them out is to change the heads or play a gig. So when it comes time to tour and stuff like that, I will pick out what I need based on the needs of that tour kind of thing.
Right.
And thus far, I've never been on a tour that required me to have 5 toms. You know what I mean? Like, I've never, even when it's a bigger tour and you got like a nice bus and stuff like that, and you do have a tech or anything like that, I'm still like, 4 is good. I only need these 4. I don't need anything else. Like,
Yep.
I can accomplish exactly what I need with this every night. It's fine. So it's nice to be able to pick and choose the sizes, though. I'll say that, of like, okay, a couple of smaller toms would sound better on this than the big giant deep rock toms, or vice versa, or something like that. So it's nice to be able to pick and choose of all those drums, but all at the same time, never.
Yeah.
Never done it.
Yeah, like the one that I've recorded our last couple albums with has, I mean, it's an 80s Yamaha kit, so it's got those like power toms.
You can't really see this, but this kit right here, you can't. I don't know if you can see this floor tom a little bit. There's a little bit sticking out. I'm touching it. Just know that I'm touching it.
I see it.
This is an 80s. This is my studio kit, and it's over here on the side, and it's all mic'd up for session work. It's an 80s recording custom kit too.
Nice. Yeah, that's what it's Yamaha custom. That's what mine is.
And it's got all the big power size toms, the big deep ones. What color is it?
So for playing live, I hated it because I can never get them like exactly where I wanted them, just because they're so deep. But they sound so good for recordings.
Yes.
So that kit just became like I would leave it set up for practice, leave the other one, same as you do, leave my touring kit in the cases ready to go. So if we got a last minute gig, it was like, throw them in. I didn't even have to pack anything up.
It's exactly what it is. All the road case and everything are opposite the door in this room. So I can open the door and just grab, and I don't even have to really come in. And then, the 80s recording custom kit is set up mic'd. The only time I've used it live twice. That's it, twice. And the only other time it ever leaves this room is if I'm doing a session at a studio elsewhere. If I'm not doing a session here and I have to go to a studio, I bring this kit. But outside of that, it lives in this room. And it just sounds fantastic for recording. Like, that's what it's made for. And it's just like I had a session earlier today, and I was just doing a demo for somebody and then sending it off to them. And then usually once I bounce a couple of demos of like ideas and stuff over to these bands and stuff. And then when they pick out what they like, of like, oh, I like what you're doing in the verse on demo 1, and I like what you're doing in the bridge to demo 2, and I like the chorus of demo 3. Then I go back and I edit it into one thing, and they give me the thumbs up, and then I go and I actually track. But with the demos, I don't EQ anything. I do like a little rough mix and pan some stuff, and I might tweak the kick and snare a little, but the toms and the overheads, I just leave it dry. Nothing on it, no effects, no EQ, no nothing. I was listening back to it today before I emailed it over, and I was like, oh man, I don't think I should EQ my toms anymore, like ever, because they just sounded so good. And I usually, my instinct is to like, instantly when it comes to doing the EQ work on a track, I'll be like, throw in some generic EQ presets over all the channels, you know, to warm it out, to round it, to whatever I want to do for that sound. And I was like, I've been doing that to my whole kit, even the toms and everything. And I'm like, I don't think I need to do that. I really don't. And what have I been doing for the last however many months? I've been screwing up the sound of my own drums because they sound great just flat. So I think I'm going to stop EQing my toms so much now.
Just leave it alone. It's so easy to want to just like push all the buttons and just play with everything.
Yeah, you know,
just leave it alone.
Add a little compression, and I want to bump the mids a little, and I want to add some reverb and make it sound like it's in an arena. But I was like, you know, these just sound fine. They don't need that. They don't, you know, maybe a little reverb, maybe, but not a lot. That's the thing. So
now when you're recording, what kind of heads are you using? Are you using coded? Are you using
coded? I use coded for everything, live and studio. I use coded heads. I don't know why. There's no logic behind it other than like I wanted to try it once. I always used to use clear heads. And I just decided one time, like, what would coded heads sound like on that? And then I just kept getting coded heads. I was like, well, I like the way it sounds, so I'm just going to keep doing it. So all of my kits are coded heads, always. Generally, like a 2-ply on top, I use Aquarian heads. So I use their Response 2s, which is equivalent to like a Remo Ambassador or a Remo Emperor or an Evans G2. Like the G2, the Emperor, and the Response 2 are all, if you read the specs online on everybody's websites, they're all the same kind of thing, the same thicknesses and everything else. Most of the time, that's what I use. If I have a kit that's like less expensive, then I use thicker heads. For whatever reason, it just makes them sound perfect. Or if it's going to be like a long tour and I don't want to be changing heads constantly, I'll take thicker snare heads and thicker tom heads on tour just so I don't have to blow through it. There was one tour I did one time, I was using single ply heads on my snare, and I had to change the snare head every single night. Every single night I had to change the snare head, and there were some nights where it wouldn't even get through the whole night, and I'd rip through it halfway through the show and have to switch out the snare. And so I was like, I can't do that anymore. I got to start using thicker heads. The venues I'm playing, no one's going to be able to tell the difference in the sound of it. They're going to be like, that sounds like a snare. They don't care what it's made of. They don't care how deep it is. They don't care how it's tuned. It sounds like a snare drum. That's it.
Right.
You know? Yeah. So are you rocking coded heads also on that?
I am. I actually started playing on coded heads because I was doing a lot of brush work. Back in college, I was playing for some like guitar jazz ensemble type stuff.
Okay.
So, you know, in order to be able to hear what you're doing with the brushes, you really need those coded heads.
Yeah.
And then when I started doing more rock stuff, I don't know, I just kind of stuck with it. And that D-drum kit that I had that was given to me, it was falling apart. I mean, it was like the guy was about to trash it. He offered it to 5 other people, and no one even wanted it for free.
Wow.
It was like that bad. And I was like, you know what? the last kit I had, it warped because it had been in my basement before I had air conditioning put in.
Mhm.
And I said, I need a kit. So let me try it. If I can't fix it up myself, then I'll trash it or give it away, whatever.
Yeah.
So, and at the time I was working at an instrument repair shop. So I was fixing woodwinds and brass and drums. So I was like, I know a little bit. Let me see what I could do.
Perfect.
So I took it home and I'm like gorilla gluing pieces back together that had fallen off and like
Oh, wow.
just totally trying to like rehab this thing. And I've now had that kit for over 10 years and was getting compliments every show I played. Like, wow, what kind of kit is that? It sounds great. So many people were telling me, oh, the wood is so important. The wood is so important. I was like, this thing is made of like freaking plywood. Like, there's
Yeah.
nothing
Yeah.
good about this kit, but I put really good heads on it
Mm-hmm.
and it sounded amazing. I use the Evans Onyx, the black Onyx heads.
Okay.
And something about the mixture of that with the kit just worked so well. I mean, every kit, it's like every kit I have, every snare drum I've ever had, I would just try a bunch of different heads,
Yeah.
not knowing why it sounded a certain way or knowing like the science behind it, just trial and error, what works. And that was magic on it.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. I have a beater kit in my garage that I pieced it together. There was a Sam Ash that got a damaged Ludwig bass drum in, and it wasn't even like a good one. It's like one of the Chinese cheap beginner Ludwig accent bass drums, and it had a crack in the shell. And they were told to throw it away. They were like, Ludwig said, don't even send it back, just destroy it. So I was like, I'll take that. So they just gave it to me. So I had this bass drum with a crack in the top of the shell. Big deal, right? It wasn't even that bad of a crack. And then I started like garage sailing and piecing other drums together. I found a snare drum that was literally left by the dumpster out at the back of the studio here, along with, it was like a Mapex snare. It was in great shape. It was just missing the throw off. And I had one, and lo and behold, the screw holes matched up. So I was like, well, I just put this on. Now I got a snare. And there was a Gretsch snare drum too that was missing one lug. And I ended up fixing that up and selling it. But these were left by the dumpster, you know? And
Have you ever actually gone dumpster diving for a kit?
I've never gone into a dumpster for one. But these were sitting on the ground next to it. So,
I have.
oh God. No. You can't say that now, and in like an age of COVID, everyone's going to be like this with you now. You know,
So it was right on top of the dumpster. So we didn't really go in it. We just took it out.
Close enough. No, but yeah, I pieced a bunch of drums together, you know, oh, this guy's selling one at a garage sale for $25. This guy's got something, you know, and none of them matched. That was the thing. And I put like this whole 5-piece kit together, and I stripped all the shells and sanded them down and painted them all to match each other. I put really good heads on it, and it sounded phenomenal. And there was a tour I was going on a few years back where somehow communication got crossed, and we were on a tour, and it was like 3 bands, and we were all touring together. We had 2 buses, and all 3 bands split between the 2 buses, and thankfully we had our own bus, and the other 2 bands had to share one. But somehow we're playing as part of the tour, like at the midway point of the tour, we're doing South by Southwest, and we're doing like this day-long festival at South by, and somehow our tour had to provide backline for that day at that venue. And I don't know who organized that. I don't know if it was the tour manager or the promoters or the booking. I don't know who did that, but we didn't find out until like 2 days before we were leaving. And we're in rehearsals, and we're like, what do you mean we're providing backline for South by Southwest when we play there? Who agreed to that? So I was like, they're not playing my good kit. I had this, I had just gotten a new kit from Yamaha, um, maybe the year before or something like that. And I'm like, they're not playing, I'm not having 10 bands in one day that I don't know bashing on my kit. So we actually, because it was a bigger tour, we were able to take 2 drum kits. And I took my kit, which I played every night of the tour, and then we had the beater kit from my garage that I pieced together from garage sales. And that was the kit. It only came out of the trailer one day just for the South by Southwest date where 10 bands were going to be playing. And the rest of the tour, my Yamaha kit was used. But that, I put like really good heads on. I put like super extra thick Aquarian Force 10 heads on everything and like a super kick on the bass drum and stuff. That kit sounded amazing. All mic'd up in a venue, that kit sounded amazing. And every single drummer that played it that day was like, what kit is this? This is great. And I'm like, it's nothing. It's like
it's trash. You want to buy it?
I was like, the floor toms of PDP, the kick drums of Ludwig, the snares of Mapex. I don't know what the rack toms are. I have no idea what they are. There's no logos, no badges. The lugs are super generic. And then I had a friend that was coming through on tour after that at one point, and they called me up and they're like, we're flying into LA and we're going to be on the road for a month. And she was flying from Buffalo to LA to start the tour. And she's like, do you have something I can rent? And I was like, you don't have to rent anything. I got you. I got this kit covered. So they used that kit on the beater kit. I was just like, yeah, I got all the hardware and everything. Just come to my house and I'll give it to you right out of the garage. And you just take that on the road. It sounds good. Trust me, it doesn't look like much, but it sounds good. And at the end of the tour, when she returned it, she was like, oh my God, this kit, I got compliments every single night. This kit was amazing. And since then, Wednesday 13 has used it for 2 of his music videos. Where, and again, he just comes over to the house and I open up the garage. Yeah, here, take whatever you want, kind of thing. And I had it painted all like flat black and the hardware all white. So the lugs and the hoops were all white. So it looked super cool, but it actually sounded good too.
It's so funny that you just said flat black and the hoops white because that's exactly what I did with the one that I took out of the dumpster.
Really?
So my dad passed by this dumpster near his house and he calls me up and he's like, I just passed a dumpster. There's a drum set sticking out the top of it. Do you want it? You got to go get it. It's just sitting at the top of a dumpster. So my guitarist and I went out there like ninjas in the middle of the night, dressed in all black with like gloves on and like, black hoods. And so no one sees what we're doing. And we go over there and we quickly just grab it, throw it in the car, and we drive down the street to an empty parking lot to actually take a look at it. Because we just felt weird standing in front of someone's house, like inspecting this thing in the dumpster. So we go take a look at it. And I'm like, all right, I could try to fix this. The wrap was like crumbling. It was all just popped off of it. It was like melted and everything. So I took an X-Acto knife. I cut the wrap off and I just spray painted the bare wood, painted it black. And then I took white track tape, like that you would use for a mixing board, and I just put that. Or it had like a silver hoop, so I just put it around the inside of the silver hoop, so it was like black within silver and a white stripe.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I knew like my friend's godson just wanted to learn how to play drums, so he wasn't looking for anything that sounded good or looked good. He just wanted a kit to learn on. And I was like, all right, kid, like, what colors do you want? Black and white? Okay, I got you.
There you go.
There you go. That was his first kit.
I did the black and white thing, and I just spray painted it like you did. I just spray painted it in the garage. And because the cool thing is when it gets scuffed up, I can fix that. Shh, done, And I did the white hardware because, like, I have this very vivid, distinct memory of a drum kit that Joey Kramer from Aerosmith had back in like the early 90s. that was all black with white hardware. And he had always done white hardware on all of his kits. He always did white hardware. But the black shell with the white hardware just stuck out of my mind as like the most awesome looking drum set ever. And so I've always wanted one of those, a black kit with white hardware, always. So this was my opportunity. I was like, well, I got all these dumb drums. I'll make it. And since then, I've actually changed the color and I've made it black hardware with like a dirty, smoked out grayish finish. But that's the cool thing is like anytime I wanted to change the color of these drums, just buy a couple of cans of spray paint and fix it. And
The paint now.
yeah, it adds to the tone, right? Resonance, lack of resonance. But now I use those drums a lot with street drum corps gigs.
Nice.
So in my garage is basically like an SDC storage unit where there is a full stage worth of gear in storage in my garage. I have a bunch of trash cans and oil drums and barrels and stuff and paint buckets, and then I have these drums. And what I did with the kick drum actually is I bought floor tom legs, and I took the legs off the kick, turned it on its side, and drilled floor tom legs and made a 22-inch floor tom out of it. So now I can have a whole stand-up kit where I got a couple of rack toms and these two, the one floor tom was 18 inches and the other one's 22. So it's got like the two biggest floor toms you can imagine. And you set that up with the keg and stuff like that. And we put it out on stage for SDC gigs. And it's great because if someone knocks it over or intentionally kicks it over or picks it up over their head or whatever, or wants to stand on it, it's like, I'm not going to be heartbroken because it was literally trash. You know, it was
Right.
that I just made it look good.
Yeah, that's actually like, I'll be honest, I was nervous about getting this kit and I have yet to actually play a show with it because as soon as I got it, we went on lockdown. But I'm like, with my D-drum kit, it was given to me. So anything that happens, I'm like, I'm not worried about it. You know, I fixed it up before, I'll just fix it again. And now I'm like, I have this really nice kit. Now I'm nervous to take it anyway. You know, like you're playing these dive bars that like people are just spilling beer all over your stuff. I'm like, I think I'm going to keep some extra kits for those kind of tours and keep this for like the actual, you know,
The
stage shows.
where people are handling it carefully for the most part. Yeah. I had the same kind of fear with this kit because I got this like in February, right? This has never been on stage either. And it's the same thing as I had this beautiful custom finish done to it and everything. And I'm just like, I know the first time that gets a scratch or the finish flakes off or gets rubbed or something like that, I know I'm going to cry a little bit. Like,
It's going to be a little tear.
I'm going to shed a single tear the first time this gets a scuff on it. But this was made with the intent of putting it on stage.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was the whole, I purposely picked out shells that were not like super expensive $3,000 drums because I wanted it to be on stage and I knew that it's gonna get messed up at some point. Something's gonna happen to it, even if it's not intentional. A mic stand is gonna get tipped over on me or something. So I was like, that combined with like yours with can you do fishnets on it? My whole what if we put blood all over it idea was so, I don't know if this is going to work or not, kind of a situation where it's like, I would feel really, 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 really bad if Yamaha had done it with like one of their top of the line kits and then we somehow screwed it up and it turned out terrible and it looked awful or it did something bad or the finish, you know, changed colors as a result of adding the extra layers to or something. I would feel terrible if it was like, well, that one tom cost $500. You know what I mean? So I was like, let's use one of like the more mid-range, like made for the wear and tear of the road kind of kits. And let's do it to that. Because if we screw it up, I won't feel bad. So this is just a stage Yamaha Stage Custom, which is like their mid-range. It's a Birch kit like the Recording Customs. It's just like the little stepbrother to the Recording series.
Mhm.
So, but it came out beautiful, and now it's just patiently waiting to go on stage like your drums are right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. Yeah, this was supposed to debut with our show with Bowling for Soup, and that's now been postponed until 2021. So,
Yeah, yeah. I was doing I was supposed to be doing a horror festival in mid-March, and that was the first time I was going to take these out. Was this cool horror festival, and it was like, nope, see you next year. Uh, so
yep.
it's yeah. So we'll see what happens after that, but um, eventually we'll all get there. I'm sure.
Yep.
So
That honestly is like the fun part about, with SDC, how you're just playing on kegs and garbage pails and stuff. That and having the head gloves on, it's
oh
like, okay, I can play so much harder and not worry about destroying my hands.
yep.
And I can like
Occasional
speed
sausage
up.
finger though from hitting the edge of a oil drum, but you know.
Oh.
But outside of that, yeah. Whenever
It's
I'm
like
doing,
you can just go crazy because you're not worried about, breaking a garbage can or a
are you
bucket.
wearing right? And we have broken garbage cans. Um. Uh. Did you? All right. So you're wearing the gloves with SDC. I wear the gloves when I'm doing an SDC gig also, just because it, like you said, you can go harder and there's no shock to your hands and everything. Do you wear them when you play drum kit too, though?
I just started to. So I hadn't originally. I was using wood sticks, no gloves for years. And then when I joined SDC and started using the head stuff, I just kind of fell in love with it and I started using it. And then I ended up getting an endorsement from them. And now I'm just exclusively using all their stuff. And like I said, using the gloves, I feel like I can not worry while I'm playing. Like the amount of times I've sliced my hands open on like, an edge of a cymbal or something.
Yeah.
And those little things, like you don't have to worry about anymore. So you can just go crazy.
I used to wear gloves when I was younger, and I always wore gloves like in high school even. I always wore gloves, and then uh, somewhere along the line I stopped, and I don't remember exactly when it happened or what the rationale was of like I must have just thought one day, what if I just do this without gloves on? But now I've gotten used to not wearing them. Like I said, I still wear them. If I'm doing an SDC gig, I still wear them. But outside of that, I tried last Halloween. I tried playing with gloves on for the first time in probably, you know, 9 or 10 years. And I got like 2 songs in and I was like, nope, can't do it.
Yep.
So I got to go bare hands to the stick. But the stick is another thing that's like, it's got to be really, really specific because regular drumsticks I can't hold. They're too slippery for my hands. Stay really, really, really dry when I play. They don't like a lot of people get really super sweaty hands, and I don't. They stay bone dry. And if I get any sort of moisture on my hands at all, the stick goes flying right out of my hand. And so like a regular stick I can't use. I have to use ones that have like a super thick lacquer coating on them. And that's why I always played Regal Tip. Well, part of the reason I played Regal Tip is because they're made in Western New York where I grew up. So it was kind of like a hometown pride thing. It's like, oh, these are. I found out when I was a kid. The guy at the local music store when I was buying sticks one day was like, they make those right here in Niagara Falls, and I was like, they do. Um, so it was cool that they were locally made, but they unlike most other brands, like in the late 80s, early 90s, a lot of the other brands reduced the amount of lacquer they were putting on their sticks. And for whatever reason, Regal Tip never did that. They kept that thick lacquer, and I don't know what it is, but it's the only stick I can hold on to comfortably without any problems or any issues at all. It just, like, once the circulation starts pumping in your hand, and that heat kind of transfers to the stick, it's like glue. It's amazing. Like, it's not sticky or anything like that, but it's just comfortable.
Right.
And it's the only thing I can use now. Like, I've tried other probably sticks from every brand imaginable, and I can't do it. I can't hold on to them. I feel like I got to death grip the sticks or they're going to fall out of my hand. I did use a head sticks for many years also. Actually, prior to me getting into Street Drum Corps, I was using their sticks. I can use theirs, but I got to have grip tape on them. Like, I can't hold the bare metal. Your mic cut out.
Oh.
Mic. There he goes.
Okay.
You were agreeing with me.
Yes. I need to change this cable. It's
That's all good.
this one's got to go in the trash. But yeah, with wooden sticks, like I don't wear the gloves.
Okay.
But if I'm using the head sticks, it needs grip tape and the gloves.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they're flying out.
If I'm playing a drum kit, I need to have the grip tape on those sticks, but I don't need to wear the gloves. The only time I wear the gloves now is with an SDC gig kind of thing. But they're like the only other stick that I could play comfortably without any problems. So I don't know why that is, but.
So for probably 10 years-ish, I was using ProMark 777s. They were made of oak, and it was the only sticks that I would use.
Mm-hmm.
And it became a part of my hand. Like, I could not use, like you're saying, I couldn't use anything else. Anything else felt so weird to me. And I was at NAMM, I think this was 2 years ago. Dario took them over and everything, and I'm there talking to the rep, and I'm telling him I can't find these anywhere. And for the last couple of years, I was like, I've been just ordering them directly from you guys, but they don't sell them in any music stores. Can I buy some more from you because I can't find them?
Yeah.
He goes, we stopped making those.
Oh.
I literally almost fell to the floor. I was just tears came to my eyes. I was like, no. He puts his hand on my shoulder and just goes, it's going to be okay. We'll find you something comparable.
Oh, God.
I was like, I feel like you just ripped my arm off.
What? How big is that stick? I'm not familiar with the 777.
So, it's kind of I guess it was kind of between a 5A and a 5B.
Okay.
But it's made of oak, so they didn't break as easily. Probably wasn't as good for your hands since it's, more shock rather than hickory. But they just I found rather than breaking, they would just shred. So you would never be stuck mid-song without a stick.
Mm-hmm.
They would just get thinner and thinner until you're like, okay, I need a new stick. But they hardly ever broke on you. And I don't know, they had the round tips. So back when I was doing more orchestral stuff in college and whatnot, I liked them, for doing drum rolls and stuff like that. I don't know, I just used them for so many years. So then I went over to a head and I said, you know what, I've been using these with SDC. Let me try it out on the kit. Mm-hmm. And I went over to the, wall of sticks on Big Bang Distribution's little thing at NAMM. And I tried out the Lucky Lair speed sticks.
I don't know what that stick is either.
It's by a head.
Right. Right. But that model.
Yeah, it's one of their models, and absolutely fell in love. And I was like, okay, I found my new stick. I'm good. I'm back in action. So those are what I use on the kit. That's
pretty cool. I've been using, I don't have a pair within reaching distance, but I've been using the Regal Tip 5BX, and they came out with this model in 2001, and that's been my go-to since then. So for almost 20 years, that's been my go-to stick. It's a tiny little bit thinner than a normal 5B, but just like a sliver thinner and like a 1/4 inch longer. And for whatever reason, it was just like holding Excalibur the first time I bought a pair of those. And so that's been my go-to. And even for the years that I was playing exclusively a head sticks, I tried pretty much every model they made, kind of like chasing what I had before. And I found it finally when they came out with that hybrid model, the 5AB hybrid. They have a concert version of it that's a 1/4 inch longer than standard, and the grip is the exact same diameter as the 5BX from Regal Tip. So the length and the grip were identical, and I compared them. And on average, because sticks will come in many different weights, but the average weight of that wood stick was identical to that, where I could interchange them between my hands and not notice a difference at all. It was like the synthetic version of, it was perfect. So so that was the stick I was playing with ahead, and then ended up moving back with Regal Tip a few years back, kind of thing. Just, you know, wood sticks were always my home base kind of thing. But every once in a while, I'll yank out a pair of those hybrids and you know, give them a workout kind of thing, and they don't feel foreign at all. They still feel just as comfortable as my regular sticks. But if I were to do that with anything else, you're like, what is this about? You know?
Yep. That's awesome that you found, something that was the same, because I went around for a while trying to find something that was really similar to the 777s that I was using. And everything I tried, I go, well, it's kind of similar, but not really. And, I went over to Vic Firth. I went over to Vader. I went, to every company. I was just walking around at NAMM trying all the sticks and showing them what I used and saying, what do you have that's like this?
Yeah.
And everything I tried, I was like, yeah, it's all right, but it's not the same. And then I realized, you know what? If it's not going to be the exact same thing, I'm just going to go different. If it's going to be different, I'm going to go totally different. And that's how I ended up with the head sticks.
There you go. That's pretty cool. Do you use any of their other stuff? Like they got snares and cases, and I'm sitting on one of the head seats right now.
Are you?
Yeah. Do you have one of these with the split in the middle?
No. I actually have a pork pie throne.
Okay. This thing, no lie, like it's a game changer.
Okay.
I don't, it's all black so you can't see anything, but
I've seen the one you're talking about though.
Split down the middle.
Mm-hmm.
So, I was on tour in Europe like 2 years ago with my band over there, V2A, and like the backline kit that I had was obviously a Yamaha kit, but for whatever reason, the throne wasn't a Yamaha throne. It was one of these thrones. It wasn't in a head one, but it was another brand that has that like trench in the middle, right? I wasn't sure what to expect. The first like 2 nights of the tour, I felt like I was going to fall off the stage. Like I kept doing this, and like I kept feeling like I was going to fall off. And then I got used to it. And then I got really used to it. Like, oh my God, it was the most comfortable seat I had ever sat on. By the end of that tour, I was like, this needs to come back to America with me. And so I come back here, tour ends, I come back here, and like a couple months later, I'm studying up on a bunch of songs for a band that I was going to work with. And there was a lot in their songs, a lot of double kick and a lot of this with 2 floor toms, a lot of the twist to reach both floor toms. And I started having back problems where like my lower back, like right on my right side, was just getting so sore from playing these songs. And I was like, oh, I wonder if that, throne with the split in the middle that's supposed to help with spinal compression, I wonder if that would help this. And I asked around a bit on recommendations of like, okay, there's like a couple of companies that make this, who's got the best one? And overwhelmingly, everybody kept recommending the Ahead one. So, plus they were the only people that I saw that made it like the motorcycle style seat, the saddle seat, which I'd been using round top thrones forever, but I like.
I love the saddle. Like you feel like your legs can actually move.
Yeah,
like you're not
exactly.
stuck. Yeah.
Exactly. And on a round top throne, I always had to sit on the edge of it so that way I didn't feel like my thighs were getting compressed.
Yep.
So I called Bob over at Ahead, and I was like, dude, I want to try one of these thrones. So I got one, and I'm not even lying. Within like a month or 2, I loved it so much. I was like, I'm getting another one. So I have 2 of them now. Like I got one that lives with the road kit, and then I got one here with the studio kit, so that way I never have to worry about forgetting it.
Yep, I have the same thing with the pork pie ones.
Yeah,
I have one there and one here.
there and one here. I'm sitting
Yep.
on the road cases. So I got two of them just because I was like, it's just so good.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna have to try those out then.
They're amazing. Like, this is probably one of the best thrones I've ever sat on ever.
Nice.
It's awesome.
Cool.
So I highly, highly recommend it.
Okay, I will definitely check that out.
Yeah, and I got a bunch of their cases and stuff too. The head cases are great, and
Was that the armor?
yeah, the head armor
Right.
cases and stuff. Those are awesome. If you're not doing hard cases, like those are the best padded bag you can get. So
Yeah,
good.
right now I really only have I have hard cases for my snare and my cymbals. Um, I figured when I'm flying, those are really the things I'm bringing with me. I'll bring my pedal, but I'll put it in my carry-on suitcase. So really the only things that have to go in the cases there are those two things. Everything else I'll rent or borrow when I get wherever I'm going.
I don't even fly with a snare drum anymore. I used
No.
to, but I don't even do that. I'll fly with cymbals and like you, I stick the pedals in the suitcase.
Yep.
But cymbals are the only thing I really fly with now, and it's easy because most of the time they fit in the overhead compartment. Like I'm too paranoid to check them.
Yep. Yep.
So,
Yeah, I'm paranoid, but mine like what size is your ride? What's the biggest cymbal you're using?
most of the time 22. Most of my rides are all 22.
And that fit in the overhead?
Yeah, yeah, and it used to fit. It used to fit on the floor, on the seat in front of you. But
Yeah, no way. They're so small now.
well, yeah, no, like I said, it used to. It would still stick out a little bit, but you just
Yeah.
kind of put your feet on top of the cymbal bag when the flight attendant comes by to check your seatbelt, kind of thing, and you just
Yep.
keep your feet there, and they can't see it. But now the airlines have made the seats so small that it doesn't fit in underneath anymore. It still fits up top, but I've had a couple of flights where they're like, "Hey, we'll put that in the captain's closet for you." And I was like, that's fine. Just don't put it underneath.
Right.
Don't put it with the luggage. As long as it's in the cabin, I'm okay with it.
Right. I actually checked mine. I did not want to, but it didn't fit in the overhead on the one we were taking out to California. And so I mean, I taped it up and hoped for the best. And everything was fine. Thank God.
I'm way too paranoid.
Yeah, but I mean, I had it in the SKB case, so it was in the hard case and everything. And
But even with that, like, was on a flight back from a European tour a couple years ago, and we got everything, made it there and back, and everything was fine. But on the way back, the bass player's bass got folded in half, and it was in a hard shell case. It was in like an SKB flight case, and I swear to God, I got pictures of it. It was folded in half.
oh my God.
And he had to fight with the airline for like a year to get them to pay for it.
We actually, speaking of that, when I was tour managing for the Dolly Rots, we flew to the UK, and the base did not arrive at all.
Ugh.
So they had transferred. I flew from New York and met them there in London, and they flew from Florida to Atlanta, and then transferred from Atlanta to the UK. And it got sent from Atlanta to Scotland. Or no, I'm sorry. We flew directly to Scotland. It was something like that. Wherever we were, it went to the other place. And obviously, we were on tour in a bus and we were moving every day. And they're like, all right, well, we can, get it there tomorrow. And we're like, we won't be here tomorrow.
Yeah.
We're gone. And we have a show tonight. So
well, now that you're hooked up endorsing SJC, do they have distribution in Europe?
So they have, I believe they do in Europe. I'm pretty sure they said in the UK, and I know obviously all across the US. They said wherever we go, we can,
Okay.
borrow, rent, whatever.
Distribution in Europe is amazing. That's the one huge, amazing. I can't say it's the one huge, amazing thing. It's one of the many huge, amazing things that I love with Yamaha is when I go overseas, I get a hold of the guy who runs their European offices over there for the artists and just give them a list and be like, this is what I need. And they're like, okay, cool. We got that. And they actually, like, if you want to like pay a little extra, they have like courier service with it too, where they deliver it to the venue that you start the tour at, and then pick it up from the venue you end the tour at. So the last time I was in Europe, the drums arrived the day before I did, and we pulled up to load in that day, and there's road cases with my name on it. And I open them up. Oh, all right, everything's checked out. Got my kit. That's great. And then when the tour was over, I just left the drums in the cases at that venue. And you just make sure, you know, the tour manager discusses it with the whoever's running the venue, kind of thing. Like, Yamaha's going to come by tomorrow and pick these up.
Right.
And it's like you just pay like I said, like a courier service kind of thing. And I was like, oh, I'll absolutely pay for that. Like, it's the convenience.
Well, yeah, if not, you're paying for yourself to stay an extra day and go return it and figure out transportation in another country. And
yeah, exactly. Like, how are you going to get transportation if you end here and you started there? And like, how are you supposed to do that or know where their office is located in that particular country? Like, there's no way. So having that little extra was like the most amazing thing ever. And you just hit them up a couple days later and be like, make sure that they got everything back okay. And they're like, yep, our guy went and picked it up yesterday and it's at that office now and everything's good. Like,
oh, that's great.
Oh my God, lifesaver, absolute lifesaver. You're nervous until you get there and you see them waiting for you. Because if they're not waiting for you, then it's like, well, what do we do tonight? But they have not let me down so far. So
yeah, that's like when that bass didn't show up. Thank God the opening band let her borrow a bass, because like, what would we have done?
Oh yeah. Oh, would have been completely lost. And I've heard so many nightmares and so many horror stories. I got so many friends that have so many awful horror stories of having to travel with stuff like that. And there was again, going over to Europe. This is back when I used to take my own snare. I was doing 2 different tours, like back to back. One of them was here in the States, and I was on the road for a month. And then the other one was in Europe, and there was no days off in between those 2. The only reason I accepted the first tour was because the record label, I told them, I will do this if you can get me a red-eye flight from New York to LA after the last show, because we were ending in New York. I said, you get me a red-eye flight that night to get me back to LA, because I have a flight to Russia the next morning. And that was my terms for like even accepting the gig. And so, but that meant I couldn't do any rehearsals with the other band. And that meant I couldn't do anything about gear that was getting shipped over there. I had to have basically 2 tour rigs going out at the same time. So I left everything that I had on the first tour in New York and had it shipped back to me after I got back from the second tour. And then for Europe, I had to give that band a bunch of gear to take over with them, that I was just going to meet them later. And when I flew back to LA, I never even left LAX. I was there for 4 hours and just killed 4 hours and that was the layover I had from New York to LA, LA to Russia. I had a 4-hour layover. And I just had to trust, like, giving this set of gear to that band to take to Europe and then leaving the other set in New York and having it shipped back later. And that was so stressful just on my own mental state of like, is this stuff actually going to arrive to the places it needs to arrive? And is it going to be okay while I'm gone? And so thankfully everything worked out okay, but that was nerve-wracking.
So where did they even hold the kit while they were waiting for you to get back to LA? Like, they held it at the venue?
No. See, here was the beautiful part is so I grew up in New York. Like, I grew up in Western New York, and that's where the tour ended.
Oh, okay.
So the tour started in San Diego and then zigzagged up throughout the States for a month and ended in Western New York. So I got family there. So it just stayed at my dad's house.
How convenient.
I was the most incredibly convenient thing ever. After that last show of the tour, after that day, I went back to my dad's, had dinner with my family, showered, and then he took me right to the airport. And I left my gear at his house. And then I said, when I get back from Europe, which I was going to be in Europe for another 6 weeks or something like that, I think it was, or I don't remember exactly. Over a month. When I get back from Europe, I'll call you and I'll have you ship all the stuff back to LA for me.
What's the longest tour that you've done?
At like one whole any given time where it's like
Yeah.
start and end, 3 months.
And that was all Europe?
No, that was a US tour.
Okay.
So I've never been in Europe for longer than a month, at least, like at any given time where I'll be over there for like a month. But as far as like continuous touring, like day one to flying home kind of thing, 3 months is the longest tour I've done. So the good old days when you can do that. Now tours keep getting shorter and shorter and shorter because it's expensive to stay out there.
Mm-hmm.
So what about you?
And honestly, like if you're taking a day off, that's a day that you're not
Selling
merch, making money, So, and then you're just paying for a hotel room or something instead of, sleeping on the bus or in the van overnight.
Yeah.
Like honestly, when we go out with Jackknife, we hardly ever take days off. We'll usually go out for a week and just play every single day. The only time we'll take a day off or even get a hotel room is if we're out for more than a week. We'll get a hotel room once a week just to like sprawl out. Other than that, we're sleeping in the van.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah. Oh no, I've done many of those sleep in the van tour days and stuff like that. I'm not above doing it at all. Like if someone's like, oh yeah, we're going on the road for 3 weeks and we're no hotels, we're just gonna do it in the van, I'd still say yes. But I have been getting spoiled with some of the gigs that I've done where it's like, oh, we have a double decker bus with like, we do? Okay. I'm more than okay with this. And if I could just do that every single time, or a lot of the time now it's just flying too. It's like you get on a plane, you fly here, you fly there, you whatever, because that ends up sometimes being cheaper. Depending on where you're going, that could be cheaper than having to stay out on a bus. So I've been getting spoiled with some of the tours that I've done the last handful of years, and I'm just fingers crossed that spoiledness kind of continues.
Yep.
What's the longest you've been out for at any given time?
I think the longest one was 2 weeks in the UK. We did England, Scotland, and Wales. And we had like, I think 15 shows across those, but I wasn't playing. I was tour managing and drum teching, and guitar teching. I was kind of like the tech for the band.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a double-decker tour bus for that, which was awesome.
Aren't those nice?
It was so much fun. And that was like my first that was my first time in the UK, and it was my first time on a tour bus. So that whole tour was a lot of fun. Other than that, it's always been like a week here, a week there, or like last summer I was basically on tour the entire summer, but each one was like a week and then home for a day or two and then out for another week, home for a day or two. Mm-hmm. So it was like 3 months of touring, but never for more than a week at a time.
Yeah, that's kind of more frequent now with people because, like we were saying, it's expensive. And so, I think in recent years, the longest stretch I've had at any given time where you're not going home at all is like 6 weeks. Mm-hmm. And then there's a break or something like that. But outside of that, like there's been times where I've been out longer than 6 weeks, where I've been out for a month or two, but it's a situation like I was saying where it's like, no, I came home one day for 4 hours and I just stayed at the airport but that was two different bands. That wasn't even the same tour. That was two completely different bands that just happened to have an end date and a start date that were the same,
Right. Yeah, because I had times between SDC and Jackknife and tour managing for some other bands and then working lights for a few festivals and running sound for things. Like it was just back and forth, but it wasn't with the same company. It wasn't with the same band. It was just like hopping around to the next
Yeah.
thing. And a few years ago, we did Jackknife Stiletto did a tour. Like we kind of made a giant circle around the U.S. and that was about 2.5 weeks. And we just kind of went nuts with that one. It was our first big tour, and we decided, you know what? We're gonna have the longest drives that we'll ever have. We have 2 weeks off of work. We're going to Cali, but we're not just gonna shoot a straight line to Cali. We're gonna go all around the U.S. in a circle in 2 weeks.
Wow. Wow, that's
And
ambitious.
we decided if we can do this, if we can pull this off, everything after this will seem like a piece of cake.
That's, you know what? That's not a bad idea. It's like if you go out on your first run and make it intentionally difficult on yourself, and then you'll always be prepared for something easier.
Yeah, because like whatever can go wrong will go wrong then, and then like you're experienced now. So that's what we did, and it was perfect. I mean, we drove 19 hours from show to show, going from Denver to LA. We played it in Denver, drove to LA. We had 4 hours to spare. So we got in, loaded in, set up our stuff, went and napped in the van, and then played the show.
I don't think I've ever done a drive that long on a tour ever. Wow, that's insane.
Yeah. And we were driving too. I mean, we didn't have anyone with us. We didn't have any roadies, any techs, any drivers. It was just 2 people splitting the drive. And
Just the 3 of you. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, hats off to you. That's tough. Not everybody can do that. Like, not every musician can handle themselves on the road. Not every road musician can handle that. So kudos to you. Like, that's outstanding.
Yeah, like the average drive on that tour was about anywhere between 10 to 14 hours.
Oh my
every day.
God, that's insane.
Every single day. And then that long drive. But after that, like the next tour we did after that, we went like northeast coast. So it was like Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts. Like everything was 2 hours apart. We're like, what do we do with ourselves?
I'm trying to think, and I honestly can't even think of a tour I've ever done where we've had a 10-hour drive between venues. I honestly don't. I remember there was an 8-hour drive on a recent one, but like, and that seemed like a lifetime. But I, honest to God, don't think I've ever had one longer than 8 hours on a particular tour. That's crazy. Wow, you're right. Everything now is going to be a piece of cake. Every tour you do,
piece of cake. Yeah,
what
especially when we went to England.
Mhm.
Oh my God, they would drive like 15 minutes to the next city.
Yeah.
Like we'd stop and we're still all up and partying and hanging out on the bus, and they stop and we looked at each other and went, "Are we getting gas?"
There was
like, they're like, "No, we're at the next venue."
We're
Like,
here.
we didn't go to sleep yet. What do you mean?
Yeah, we there in Spain it was like that too. We had a bunch of venues in Spain on one tour, and it was like there would be days where the tour manager's like, "No, you guys all sleep in," because it's like an hour and a half, 2-hour drive to get to the next venue. We don't have to be up early. We don't have to leave at a certain time. So like he'd get up and he'd take us sightseeing and we go have breakfast and stuff like that. He'd show us around the area. And then it's like, all right, it's 2:00. We should probably head to the next venue if we want to get, if we want to be there by the time catering's ready. So those are cushy. Those are nice. What's next for you? Like obviously no one's playing live right now, but and not just with Jackknife, like you in general. I'm sure with Jackknife, you guys, like everybody, have been working on material. Do you record it all on your own, like at your own studio where you are now, or do you go to a studio to do that?
So normally, we will record, if it's like a simple, like we're trying to make a YouTube video or something, then we've been doing that here. But for our actual albums, we go to a friend of ours, Dave Caggiano at Betamax Studios. He's our engineer / producer, and he's done our last 2 EPs and the album that we have coming out now. It's actually done.
Okay, so that's what I'm wondering. Like, have you been recording this whole time, or do you already have it like in the can and you're just waiting to be able to
Yeah.
capitalize on it?
Yep, we're waiting. So
Okay.
we had just finished it before lockdown.
Oh, okay. Wow.
So we finished recording. It had just gotten mastered and by Sterling, and we had just done a music video for it, and which I'm really, really excited for that to come out because we borrowed a friend of mine runs a haunted house.
Oh,
So he let me borrow all these creepy, bloody mannequins and like body parts and stuff. And we used that and we filmed it at a puppet theater. So it's this whole weird, creepy thing.
I can't wait to see this.
But now this music video is for a song that's on that upcoming album.
Mm-hmm.
And so we can't release it yet because we can't release the album yet. So it's all just waiting.
So many albums got delayed. So many things that, the labels are getting antsy though, because they've been releasing stuff that like was supposed to come out in the spring, and then they sat on it in the spring. They're like, we can't put this out right now because we don't know where this is going. And then like by midsummer, they're like, screw it, it's all coming out now.
Right. Well, yeah, at first we're going like, do we just release a single? Do we just release the whole thing anyway and give some content for everyone who's, sitting at home bored? Or do we hold on to it? And then we looked, and I mean, all the companies that were making the physical CDs and we were going to make vinyl, they were all shut down. So, all right, we can release it digitally, but we can't tour it and we can't produce physical copies.
Yeah.
So finally, they're starting to open back up. We actually just got vinyl test presses.
Awesome.
So that's really exciting. They look awesome.
I had a label for one of my groups just hit me up today and was like, what's your address? So they're vinyl shipment in of my personal copy of the record is coming in. Nice. Although, because we're pre-taping this, I probably already have it.
Yeah, you have it. Congrats.
Yeah. By the time people are actually watching this, I already have it. And thank you, Cleopatra Records, for sending that to me. But at the time of this conversation, earlier today, they sent me a message and asked for my address to send it to. But now they're finally like, everybody, like I said, all the labels are like, screw it, everything's coming out now. All right, so you're sitting on that. Do you have a projected idea of like when are you going to release this? Or are you just waiting till next year, or like not?
We have no idea. We've been back and forth with the label trying to figure out what the best option is. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, we've been kind of asking around to all our friends, and I'd love to ask your opinion on that as well. Mm-hmm. What should we do? Like, what is the best option? Because we could just hang on to it and wait, or we can just say whatever and just start releasing stuff. Yeah. And we don't really know.
That's such a hard thing because I don't know what the best option is. Like in an ideal world, like in the normal world, the process is you record an album, you release a single, you release that album, music videos, whatever, and then you go play live. And you go play live so you can play your new songs, and so you can also push sales of those new songs. Did you like this one we just played? Great, go buy it. Great, it's available on iTunes. Add it to your Spotify playlist, whatever it's going to be. That's how it normally works, right? That's out the window now. I can say this, that I have been busier as a studio musician this year than I ever have in my entire life. I think between singles, EPs, and full-on records, I think I have recorded 16 different artists. Like this group was an EP, that group was a whole album. This artist was a single, that artist was a single. I think I have 16 currently under my belt between all of that. So
yes. So when you were on our show with Jackknife, you had mentioned that there were some recordings you had done that you had never even met the artist. I think you said someone in Jersey.
There's I think so. Now I got to remember who was in Jersey. But yes, no, there are a lot. I have not met these people in person. There's a producer out here in LA that he's hit me up for a couple of things like, hey, I'm working with such and such artist. I want you to play drums on one of their songs. Great. And then he called me up again. Hey, I got another one for you. Great. And then there's a handful of local artists, local LA artists that are all like, I'm working on new music and I want you to play drums on a couple of songs or something like that. And I did one that was this guy, local LA guy, hit me up and he's like, I'm doing a collaboration. I wrote this song about being in quarantine, and it's basically about like not having to put real pants on every day and stuff. It's really funny.
What are real pants anymore?
Right. Really funny tongue-in-cheek song. And he wrote this original song and he's like, and I want to do it with different people from all over. So in the music video for this that we shot, every time a different person shows up in the video, it says their location. So when it shows me playing the drums, it says Los Angeles. There was somebody in Ohio. There was somebody in Texas. There was somebody, and these are people I don't know. And the song was great. It came out wonderful to the point where a couple of these people actually, and I'm not sure if I'm supposed to be saying this now or not, because timeline-wise, I don't know. But
you can always edit it up.
Screw it. They're not going to watch this. So a couple of those people decided, why don't we just put a band together? So, and they asked me if I would play drums. And I was like, sure. Like, we're not going to play live. It's just recording. So we're putting an album together right now. I was tracking on some of it earlier today. But the guitar player and the bass player, I don't know them. They're not in this state. I don't recall where they live. I'd have to look again. But they are not, I've never met them before. And we are literally just have a group chat going and bouncing song ideas back and forth. Someone comes up with a guitar riff and sends it over. I lay down some drums on it and I send it back. And like, we've been collaborating that way. I did something for somebody in hip hop artist in Philly a couple of weeks ago. So I was doing a country record with a friend of mine in Canada, and it's all been from all over the place, which is cool. I even did a photo shoot with a guy in the UK.
I saw that. You were writing virtual photo shoots. So explain that. How did that work?
Did it like this almost. Like
So he was just clicking like.
I don't know what he was doing because we used my phone and we did it on FaceTime, and there was some sort of setting that I had to go into FaceTime and turn on. And then he was able to somehow screen capture it on his end. And he talked to me through like adjusting the lights and stuff like that. Like, try putting your light up higher, position it here, do this kind of thing, turn your head this way. Now, like, he directed me the whole time and took a bunch of photos and did edits or whatever he had to do and sent them back to me like a week or two later. And I was like, these came out pretty cool. Some of these look awesome.
That's awesome.
He's been doing that with a ton of people, and I knew a bunch of people here in LA that were doing shoots with him. And the pictures all came out looking great and stuff. So they recommended working with him. So I was like, sure, why not? Like, why not try it one morning kind of thing? And it was cool. It was super cool. Nice. I don't know exactly what he was doing on his end. He might have just been doing screen captures. After I adjusted the settings on my phone, he was probably just doing screen captures on his laptop or something, but it looked good. The lighting looked good. Like, I was happy with him,
Nice. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. Like, obviously, it's not good that there's a virus. It's not good that people are dying and getting sick. Like, I'm not going to say good things are coming, but to be able to take such a bad situation and have so many different good things come out of it. I mean, like, where there's a will, there's a way kind of thing. If you're creative enough, you can find ways to make it work. You can find work. And, there are things that we never would have thought of because we're either too busy doing other things or just so, in our routine. Okay, like, yeah, you join a band, you practice songs, you go play a show. That's your routine. Yeah. And now all of a sudden your routine is totally screwed up. What do? You can either say, oh, this is terrible and I can't do anything, or you can figure out a way to make it work. So all these like recordings, I mean, I had never even used an interface before this. Like, I'm like computer illiterate. I never used Zoom. I never used an interface. I had never recorded my own drums. And now all of a sudden it's, well, we can't go to the recording studio and we can't go play a show, so let's watch some YouTube tutorials and figure out how to use this gear.
Yeah. No, and that's the situation that so many people were in as well. And you're right, it is kind of making the best of a bad situation, and a lot of positivity and creativity has come out of it that normally would not have been there. The prior to March 15th, this room was set up just for rehearsing for me. Like, I had to learn a bunch of songs for whoever to go play a show with them. This is what I did here. And that's it. That, and other than that, it was storage for all my drums. I didn't really use it for teaching. I certainly didn't use it for recording. And like you said, I'd never recorded myself before. If someone wanted me to play on their record, I packed up this kit and I took it to a studio. And it was like, well, I might as well figure this out now. I got the opportunity. I might as well figure it out. And I bought a bunch of gear that I didn't have. I didn't have preamps and an interface either. You know, I had the software, I had my computer. I knew a little bit how to use it because I've edited like tracks for people. And I had all the mics and cables, but I didn't have an interface. I had always intended on buying one, but like, I'll get to it someday.
Right. And what do you need that for right now? Yeah.
I mean, it'd be fun to record my own stuff, but it's not really a priority. No one's asking me to track drums for them remotely right now. Mm-hmm. So I was just like, well, now I'm going to do this. And now I'm going to double down on it hard. Thankfully, I'd used Zoom a couple times, and I do have some students that are out of state that I was doing virtual lessons with. So I had a little bit of that under my belt, but only like a handful of people. The majority of my lessons were all in person, me going to their house or me teaching at School of Rock. And all of a sudden, just in one day, now it's all online. Yep. And it was like, oh, and I actually, because I sort of knew how to do this a little bit, the managers at School of Rock asked me, they're like, can you write up a thing on how to teach a drum lesson like this and send it to all of us? And I was like, yeah. So I wrote up this paragraph of like, do's and don'ts, what you can accomplish, what you can't accomplish, what to stay away from, what what works, and sent it to all the other drum teachers at School of Rock for in Southern California here. Of like, all right, here's what you're in for, guys, and then I just started going overboard with it and started like multiple webcams so I can switch camera angles for my students and be like, oh, you need to see my hands? I push a button, it's got a side angle of the snare. Oh, you want overhead? There's that,
Now, how are you doing that? Do you have a video switcher, or are you just in Zoom? And
you can do it on Zoom. You go to the menu where it has the video thing, and as long as everything's plugged in and turned on, you can switch between them. Okay. And the audio signal that I'm sending them is directly from my preamp. So all the drums are mic'd like for a recording session. I got 16 channels running on the kit. Mm-hmm. And I just feed them all directly through Zoom. So when they hear me play the kit, they're hearing like a mic'd studio kit. And I have a headset mic that I talk to them in as a talkback mic, and I use my in-ears so I can hear them, and there's no kind of crossfader or feedback or anything like that. And everything's mixed so my voice is higher than the drums, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And so I have it set up that way now. The other thing that I was using too is Yamaha came out with this device, the EAD10. And I don't know if you saw that at like NAMM or something. Mm-hmm. It's a miracle in a box. That's all I can say about it. It's like an electronic drum module, like to an electronic drum kit kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And it hooks up to a box about this big that's got a couple of condenser mics and a trigger on it. And you put that on the hoop of your bass drum, mm-hmm. and plug it in, and that's it. And it's got all these presets that mic model your kit to sound like anything. And it's phenomenal. And it's got a talk back feature on it. So when you're teaching a lesson, you hit talk back and you can talk to the student and push it again, and it switches back to the kit, and it sounds like you're mic'd up in a studio. and it's just
That's
one
awesome.
device. It's
See,
phenomenal.
all I have set up for my students is I have a little tripod that I stick my phone onto, and I've been FaceTiming or Zooming, and I'm like, even that I never had before. Like the simplest thing, like the things that seem so simple now,
Mm-hmm.
I never would have thought of doing because I never taught virtual lessons.
No, and prior to this, I was all the virtual lessons I was doing were all like that tripod on my phone. I used to have it like over here, and I'd have to turn my head to talk to them, kind of thing. And it wasn't until after this where I was like, how can I improve the experience now and make it worth their time? Because I didn't want anybody. I was essentially taking almost 40 students that I have in-person lessons with and pushing them all to be online after they had been so used to just being one-on-one in a room. And it's hard to sell online versus in person. In person is always better. It's a hard sell to be like, let's do this on the internet now. So I wanted to make it as easy and as comfortable as I could for the students so they wouldn't get bored or get irritated with how different it was. And I was like, I'm going to make this super cool for you. So I bought a bunch of web cameras and, figured out how to mic everything through Zoom and stuff like that. And it's been working out great. It's been awesome. And then just figuring out how to record on my own too, and how to be my own engineer and edit my drums and EQ everything the way I like and stuff like that has been a huge learning experience. But it's been paying off, which is awesome. So my goal is 20 albums by the end of 2020.
I think you could do that.
I'm already more than halfway there. I'm at like 16 right now, although by the time this airs, I'll hopefully be past 20. If I can go past 20, that'd be awesome. But that's like what I had before is like everything was live. Like I made my career playing music live. I would do 2 or 3 records a year for people. But if I did more than 3, it was like, wow, this was a big year for studio work kind of thing.
Right.
Now it's like that's all there is.
Mm-hmm.
So I've already recorded more albums in the last 4 months than I have in the last 2 years.
Right.
So kind of cool.
It's crazy, but that's awesome that you adapted so well, and I give it all that. That's great. Congrats.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, and congrats to you too, because with your band, you guys have still been able to be active and not just go underground. Like there's a lot of bands that have just been like, well, 2020 is a wash. We'll see you next year. And the problem is if you do that, people forget about you. People's attention spans are so low now that if you take too much time off and you don't already have a 20 or 30 year career as an established artist under your belt, people are going to forget about you real quick. So the fact that your band's been doing like these Monday night live chats with other artists and doing the videos and doing acoustic performances and stuff like that, the fact that you're still like hammering just as hard, you're not on the road, but like you're still actively working every day, is phenomenal.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, in a way, I in the beginning it felt like we were working even harder, and it was because we had no idea what we were doing. Because like I said, I had never even used an interface. As far as miking things up, I've done live sounds. I work for an audio company. We do audio and lighting, but I never did my own recording. So, those are 2 different animals that seem like they should be the same, but you're not hooking that stuff into computers and whatnot. You're dealing with a live show, and whatever happens. You're not dealing with, okay, I need to edit and, all the post-production and all that stuff. But even just doing live streams, for the 3 of us to just figure out how to Zoom and sync that to Facebook Live, we didn't even know how to do that. There was so much to just figure out.
That's why I'm pre-recording everything, because I don't know how to do that.
Yeah. There's so much to figure out. It's like, all right, how do we do this, and what do we do, and is this a good idea? Will people even like this? And we were sitting there brainstorming of just ideas of what we could do. And we're going, all right, we see these bands doing live streams and they're just playing. And obviously, that's what you want to do. You're a musician, you want to play. But how many times a week could we play the same songs or have, our same band playing to the same audience? Or, what else can we do that's a little bit different, but still music related? And that's how, we came up with the Music Monday chats. We're going, all right, we can do some acoustic live streams. Right now we're trying to work on getting a full band live stream. So I got a 16 channel interface that I borrowed, and that's our next beast to tackle, is to try to do a full electric live stream, because we've never done that before. We've always done acoustic. And then we came up with an idea to do game night. So every Wednesday we've been doing a live game night through Zoom and Facebook Live.
That's amazing.
So we did Mad Libs, we did Pictionary and Hangman, and just silly little games that you would normally just, play with a little group sitting around the coffee table. And now we're just doing it online and letting people in the chat chime in. So the other day we did Mad Libs and we're letting people in the chat give us the words and then we fill it in. So it was a way for
so much fun sounding.
And we actually, if you want, we'd love to have you play a game with us. We actually pulled some other bands. I don't know if you know No Small Children. They're from LA as well.
Name, but I don't think I know anybody in the band, but I've heard the band's name.
Okay, so we became really good.
I'm sorry that I'm bad with that.
No worries. So they actually became really good friends of ours just after touring together. We met them, I think, in Vermont, but they're from LA. And they came on and did a game night with us. We did a how well do you know your bandmates kind of thing.
Yeah, I saw
we came up
advertising that.
Yeah, so that was a ton of fun. We came up with all different kind of questions to ask each other, and you had to decide who in your band was the one that was guilty of doing each thing. But we were trying to think of ways that we weren't just begging our fans for money.
Mm-hmm.
We weren't saying, hey, we can't tour right now and help us. Hey, buy some merch. Hey, donate to us. And although you need to do that to stay afloat, we also wanted to feel like we were giving something back to the fans as well. Because if you think of that normal give and take, yeah, they're donating to you, they're buying your merch, but you're giving them a performance. You're playing a show and then they're buying your merch. Now we couldn't play that show with them anymore. So it was, all right, if we're going to ask them to support us, how can we support them? And we're like, all right, all these people are stuck at home. A lot of them are out of work. And whether they are still working or not, they need some form of entertainment because everyone's just going crazy.
Yeah.
Whether they're bored or they're so busy and stressed because they're doing new or, other things to stay afloat, they need some type of relief and entertainment to take their mind off of things. And that's how we came up with Game Night.
I think that your band has been easily one of the most creative groups out there to continually put content out and stuff like that. Because like you said, you get your band together and you can do live stream shows, but how many times can you just cater to the same audience playing the same songs? You can't do that week after week after week after week. So, and I've seen a lot of people doing that. So by having your Music Mondays and your game night and it's just thinking outside of the box in such a way that it's brilliant. And I think you guys are awesome for doing that. That's so good. So keep it up. Come up with more ideas. You guys could be working 5 nights a week if you keep getting something ridiculous every night. It'd be awesome.
Actually, you know what else we did? Annie and I have been doing cooking segments.
Oh.
Yep, we didn't do it every week, but every once in a while, if, we'll just call each other and be like, hey, you hungry? You want to make something? So we'll go on Instagram Live and you can split the screen. So we'll just each try to cook something. And
I don't even know how to do that, how to split a screen on Instagram.
Yeah, there's a way you can invite someone. So you have to start the live stream first and then you invite them. So for a little while, you're just sitting there talking to yourself.
Okay.
But then you invite the other person on and then it splits the screen.
All right.
So we did that. We did cooking segments, and then we had I think it was about a month long that Roxy and I were doing a rhythm section reversal. So she was teaching me how to play bass, and I was teaching her how to play drums, and we did that on Instagram Live as well.
How's
So we take like a little snippet of one of our songs and teach each other.
Was she able to keep a beat when you were done?
We kind of got it.
Okay. That's outstanding. That's great. Well, I applaud the success you've been having with that, and just keep it up because, like I said, you're thinking outside of the box, and more people need to do that now. So, awesome job. Thank you.
Thanks.
I think that's probably a good place to push a button on this thing too.
Okay.
So,
Has it been 3 hours yet?
we're creeping. We're creeping up there.
2 1/4.
Yeah. Where you want to give a plug? Like, where can people get in touch with you, social media wise, and stuff like that?
Sure. So let's see. Social media. Facebook. It is Melfunk JS for Jackknife Stiletto. Same on Instagram and Twitter. And then if you want to find the band, it's Jackknife Stiletto. So jackknifestiletto.com. All the links are on the website actually for Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, everything. We also have a YouTube channel, just youtube.com/Jackknife Stiletto.
And check out all of their live streams that they've been doing throughout the week with all of their fun games and interviews and stuff like that. It's outstanding. Mel, thank you so much for coming and chatting with me and talking about nonsensical drum things that nobody cares about but us.
Thanks for having me. And we'll definitely have to have you on a game night.
I'm down. I am so down. Thank you.
Thank you.